All right, let's get it going. It's time to talk about the news. Hope everyone has had a good week. It is time for Gaming News Weekly. I guess that's what we'll call this damn thing. I just threw that up as a last minute. I was like, well, I go Gaming News Weekly. We'll throw that in there, but we'll run with it for the time being. I last week we had a big, it was with, GDC, and we had the Future Games Showcase. There was a lot of news last week, and it was a 2 hour big old breakdown of all the news. This week we have next to nothing to talk about in the world of gaming news. So this might be a 20-30 minute news segment. We'll just kind of see how it goes on that front. We'll have a good old hour long deep dive Dragon's Dogma 2 review popping up for you soon. So yeah, Loon. Um, anything on this news chart jumping out at you? And anything on here that you're really wanting to dive into?
I think we'll save the interesting thing, which is Judas till last. 'Cause I think that's
Okay.
probably the most enjoyable thing to talk about. Um, I guess we'll kick it off with like Embracer sells Gearbox, which we kind of touched upon last week, I believe, or I
Yeah.
mentioned that they were doing it with like the Borderlands movie and stuff.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still blows my mind because like I get like they're having financial woes and stuff, but we like, you know, they'll see in the video with you saying about what you've played, like Alone in the Dark's a pretty good game. The Outcast game is a pretty good game. They seem to be kind of finding their footing. And Borderlands is a series that has like a decent amount of pedigree. Been around for quite a while. All the games have been fairly well received and have sold pretty well. Even the spin-off, like Tales games, Tales from the Borderlands, both one and two. The Tiny Tina's also spin-off series did pretty well. So you would think of all the things that you want to kind of like sell, is that really like I know you're probably going to get like a decent amount of money for it, but that seems like something that can just generate you money.
Well, yeah, I mean, they took like a $500 million loss on it. They sold, or they bought Gearbox. Embracer bought Gearbox in 2021 for over $1 billion, and now they're
Mm.
selling it for 460 million. So it is a
And
fire sale.
it's not even that. I don't know if you like read further down. It's not even just them losing Borderlands with that deal. They're losing Homeworld, sorry. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Risk of Rain, Brothers in Arms, and Duke Nukem,
Yeah.
all for that
And
much money. And it's just like you guys were scooping these up for like quote unquote dirt cheap yourselves, and now you're doing it to like it's just crazy.
yeah. And Take Two's getting Borderlands back. So it's like, I guess kind
Yeah.
of fortuitous to some degree that it everything leads back to to Take Two, but
At least they're going back to somebody that they've worked with, and they've clearly worked with them to a degree where they enjoy it because they published each of them games.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Dude, I it's looking like a fire sale going on over there. If you're willing to take 50% of what you paid, dude, they only paid 300 million for Eidos and for Crystal Dynamics. Imagine if Microsoft, Sony, somebody good could swoop in there for 100 mil, 150
they
mil.
just put a $20 bill on the table. We know you need it, guys. Come on. This will get
Dude,
you lunch.
there's so many teams over there that need to be bought. Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, obviously, but what is it? Tarsier, the Little Nightmares team, Flying Wild Hog, the Shadow Warrior and Evil West team. I mean, we've talked about this endless. I mean, they have limited run over there, which I know limited run's probably bankrolling them at this
That's
point.
yeah, that's probably keeping them afloat from me at least as well. With them Persona damn releases are fucking expensive. But
Yeah,
they've dipped in, and I've got a few physicals coming my way this year as well. On top of that, with High on Life,
yeah.
so they're tapping into a new market of Xbox.
It's a bummer that Embracer they do keep Remnant. So the Remnant license stays with Embracer. And that's a bummer.
Mm.
But because that's, I mean, that second game sold like hotcakes, dude. and I believe that was Gearbox published, correct?
Yeah.
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 So
Gunfire Games, I believe, made it. If I'm not mistaken, I think is the developer.
yeah,
Um, it's just such a weird thing. Again, like surely you could just generate like the amount of money that Microsoft throws around for Game Pass and stuff. Wouldn't it have just been more like financially sound to just to keep you afloat, to be like, look, man, just keep Borderlands free on your service for X amount each month. You just pump us a bit of money, have Borderlands 2, pump us a bit of money, and just do that. Like instead of because you're not making a profit, period. You've not taken this like group of things and made money on it. You've made a huge loss.
right.
But
Because they
wouldn't it have
only
made sense to just tie up with like streaming services and stuff like that and just get like a steady bit of income? Because obviously they're not going to be generating all that many individual sales anymore now that they've been out a few years.
yeah. Well, and Tiny Tina was the only thing they released in the Borderlands universe in the past, what? Other than that new Tales from the Borderlands or whatever the hell it was called, but that's really it in the last
Um,
like since Borderlands 3, huh?
you had they made a standalone release for the DLC for Borderlands 2, which was Tiny Tina related in the lead up to the Tiny Tina game. And then yeah,
Yeah.
that was it, the Wonderlands game.
And the movie, that's if I'm not mistaken, that's Take Two as well now. I think Take Two will own all the rights to that.
That's bizarre.
That's crazy,
That's
man.
because that's probably gonna generate like a decent amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's I'm hoping to God that a lot of those studios, those high quality studios, the damn Outcast team, let's get them off somewhere. All of THQ Nordic, someone buy up the whole publishing division of THQ Nordic. They got some good shit under that umbrella. But yeah, Gearbox, you got out just in time before
Yeah.
the implosion happens. Did you see that Silent Hill 2 got its ESRB rating? This is fairly fresh.
I I didn't. I saw that it got because when I was scrolling through to buy Trepang yesterday, I saw that they had put up the physical copies on Amazon stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
it's it's looking like that
it's
thing should
definitely
be,
on the way.
yeah, ESRB rated. So Silent Hill 2 should be coming soon. I'm assuming that we'll get a state of play because we got to get the Ghost of Tsushima 2 announcement. We got Ghost of Tsushima 1 coming to PC in May. So I would think probably a good June. You know, everybody does their big thing in summer. Xbox will do their big showcase. I assume Sony will at least get a state of play in there, get that Silent Hill 2 release date announced. Maybe for a lot sooner than we expect. And yeah, so Silent Hill 2, it's been rated by the ESRB, so hopefully you survival horror junkies do not have too long to wait on that one.
Yeah, you'd think with it being rated, that's usually a quick turnover rate. So maybe they're aiming for a whole not holiday, the Halloween drop kind of thing, that like October, maybe a little bit earlier than that. Because they haven't
Yeah,
really, Sony's not got anything towards the back end of the year, have they really?
nothing at all.
So
Mm,
that would be the perfect thing to for them to tap into.
I'm really hoping that Sony is waiting on, that state of play, that showcase in the summer to really drop a bunch of information and fill us in with what the back half of 2024 looks like because right now it's looking like 2024 was front loaded to the max because even, Jeffrey and I, we just did a conversation talking about our most anticipated games between April and June. There's some good stuff, but it's not a ton. So I'm really looking forward to that showcase, hoping that it happens. If it doesn't, man, oof, we're in some dire times in PlayStation land if it doesn't. But
Hmm.
let's I guess we'll make the pivot over to Xbox land because boy oh boy, they just they I it never ends. It
Rains, it
never ends.
pours.
Well, I mean, I'm not even necessarily negative on most of this stuff, but it's like it just does not, the news does not stop regarding Xbox. I guess we'll just break this down really quickly. There's been a leak of the all digital Series X. There's been some images out there. Xputer leaked the images, and it's it looks just like the Series X, but it's white and it's all digital. Um, I don't have a ton to add. It's just an image. I don't think this is like a pro console. It's just leaked
Yeah,
images of what I assume is a prototype.
they I can't remember what it was. They ended up leaking the specs showed that it was literally just a because people were like, oh, maybe it's a pro console, and it's just not. I think it's literally just they ripped the disc tray out,
Saving
and it's
on.
just Game Pass box. And it's just like, I does it really offer that much value, to be honest? Like I understand some people like genuinely don't gel with physical media and stuff, but surely is it really that much of a deal that you'd like cut? Because it's only going to be a tiny like drop in price. You're talking like probably $50 max difference, I would assume.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just want that? You'd pay that up so that you could have the option. Like, why are you restricting yourself? Just does it? Because I never understood the Series S. It never ever made sense to me, regardless of its performance things. And like, it's a useless box. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to exist. It's limited game development this generation. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, I know quote unquote big Xbox fans sit there and try and like defend it. It has it's hindered development.
Oh,
There's
I
so
mean
many
Baldur's
things.
Gate.
Exactly. If Baldur's Gate had to get a signed like thing off of Phil to be like, okay, yeah, you can make two versions of the game for Xbox because we can't miss out on this. It's too big.
It's gonna happen more and more.
Yeah. If they need to just I'm sorry, just cut support for it for Christ's sake. It's so damaging as well because who wants to approach Xbox in this state? Like who wants to be like, yeah, I'll make two versions of my game for you guys. Or I could just go over to PlayStation and just make one version, really. Like you're talking massive changes. Like they gutted features from Baldur's Gate 3 to get it to run on a Series S.
Yeah. Did you do you think it'll have the detachable disk drive like how PlayStation did with their whatever mid-gen refresh
I
edition?
don't I don't think because you think of the design of the box. Like
Right.
PlayStation lent itself to that kind of design where you like snap things out. Like
Yeah.
literally last night I opened mine up to clean it. And like there's I guess you could maybe, but the way the casing is designed, like if it's not got like the disc slit plastic thing, like how it yeah, I don't it just doesn't seem like it will work.
Yeah. It I mean the end has been in sight for physical media with Xbox for a while. Just with the DRM forced requirement with the boot up of the
Mm,
system. And PlayStation's kind of taking a page out of that book with their mid-gen refresh as well, where you have to you have to connect to the internet just to set it up that first time, which is inherently like that's a DRM box.
yep.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Mm.
So it
It's just
sucks.
not as aggressive as the approach Microsoft is taking. And
Oh
because
yeah,
they haven't gone that aggressive, like you don't really hear Sony getting criticized on it because it's like, ah, well, it could be worse. They could be doing what Xbox is doing. It's like, well, that's not the point.
for
These,
sure.
these are both incredibly negative things for the preservation of games, like
Well,
big time.
dude, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not buying a PS5 Pro if it's the same thing where you have to connect to the internet for that initial setup. I'm good. If you run GTA 6 at 4K 60, whatever, but you have to have, I'm fine. I'll stick with mine. If I got to run it at 1080 30, cool. I'll have a lesser experience. I get it, but I'm not buying into that DRM bullshit, man. I'm absolutely not gonna
Yeah.
do it. It's way too much at this point. Um,
We
but
held steady on Alan Wake too. We'll hold steady on this.
I'm not doing it, man. Alan Wake 2, I saw it got a price deduction as well, and I was like, nah,
So did I. I was
yeah,
like, ooh, stay strong.
keep slipping, keep slipping. I'm not trying to ish will on the game, but or did I say ish will? I'm not trying
Yep.
to wish ill on the game. I still got New Orleans brain, man. I'm not trying to wish ill on the game, but dude, I think now I'm at the point where it's like $20. That's my number. At first I was like 30, 40. Nah, 20. Yeah, you're not getting my damn. You're a AAA fucking. You're a giant company. You could put out a
I'm
disc.
I think I'm even more aggressive on it. Like
Game Pass.
it really yeah, it
Yeah.
really annoyed me because it's like I'm a massive Remedy fan. I bought Control twice from you guys. Like, I double dipped because of how like much I love you guys. Alan Wake 2 I bought, Quantum Break, I was there, and then you slapped me in the face with a digital only release. No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you and I both said this is like if you charge 70 for it but keep the digital at 60, we would have bought the 7, we would have paid the extra
Yeah.
$10. Most physical fans would support that. Yeah, dude, no. Fuck that shit. That's a bullshit excuse. We all know that that's an epic move. And we all understand why from a business sense, but from a consumer sense, we have to do what we feel is in our best interest as well. So, but
And
speaking of epic,
I was about to say, tying perfectly in with Epic. Oh my God. Phil,
so
my man, you are just the weirdest guy on the planet. Like you can never predict this guy's moves. He's always got something cooking up in that brain of his. And today, or whenever this news, but it wasn't today, obviously, whenever he decided, like, oh, Epic Store is on PC, Windows, PC. Why don't we move Epic Store to the Xbox? And it's just like, for Christ's sake. Um, I really don't know what to make of it. I really don't, because the only way I can rationalize this is they are trying their damnedest to try and make it a PC.
yeah.
They don't want a traditional console anymore. They're moving away from physical into digital only, which aligns with PC. They're flirting with subscription bases and stuff like that, which, you know, that fits well on a PC. And now they're talking about bringing other people's storefronts. Like to me, it made sense, I guess. To like even then, it's still shooting yourself in the foot, but they kind of partnered with them of bringing other subscription models onto your own service. But they ended up tying like EA Play into your Game Pass subscription and stuff like that. But to bring an entire storefront is like I, it just boggles the mind because them games already exist. Like, okay, I guess like the benefit of is if you were a PC player and for some reason you chose Epic as your storefront and not Steam, you're able to pull that library and put it onto your Xbox. That's
Yeah,
the only like positive, I guess, I can glean from this. Other than that, it confuses me. I don't know what to make of it.
I can't lie. I thought of this selfishly for a second. I was like, damn, there are a few PC exclusive titles that I can't play on
Hmm.
my Xbox that I would really love to if that was an option, I would love to explore that. I'd love to play the
But
that
who would pick up them pieces to make the ports? Would that fall on Epic's shoulders or Xbox's to do that?
yeah. I mean
That's
that
what's crazy. Like, because what allure does Epic have to put their storefront on there? Because they're gonna have to pay a cut to Microsoft regardless.
right. Phil seems like open borders, open ecosystem. Like that seems to be his full MO is like everything everywhere. And now we're the most, prolific publisher in gaming, so we have a clear upper hand. I mean, they have the biggest publisher in the world with
Mm,
Activision. That's before you get into talking about Microsoft Studios. That's before Bethesda Studios. Activision alone is the biggest publisher in the world. I don't know about most profitable, but at one point definitely the most profitable. And so it's like these open borders. for console gaming, that only really benefits them because at least on an optics level, if everybody starts placating to this more exclusiveless ecosystem that he seems to be wanting to pursue. And I do understand that from a financial incentive. Like, yeah, dude, you are going to sell a whole bunch more fucking copies of Sea of Thieves on PlayStation and Nintendo or, whatever the game may be than you are just on one platform, of course. Like, and
Mhm.
then vice versa for the other. But I do think PlayStation and Nintendo, they're not in the unfortunate position where they have to make these drastic pivots. PlayStation will probably end up going day and date PC, but they're not going to be putting their games on Xbox.
No,
And Nintendo's not putting their games on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. So it's like,
no, absolutely not. Like they they don't make compromises, Nintendo. They are
no,
so strong-headed as a company.
I respect it.
Like where like I don't they don't have any allure on me as like a thingy, but yeah, you have to respect it. Like they stick to what they want to do, and then like if it doesn't work, they're just like, well, we'll just try something else. But it will always be on a Nintendo platform.
Yeah.
Like the closest that they've got is, as with everybody in this day and age, doing like mobile games. That's as far as they've put like with the Animal Crossing game on phone and stuff like that. But you're never, I don't see, yeah, any Nintendo games ever making it to any platform other than Nintendo.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. It's we obviously know times are changing for Xbox and they're looking to pivot massively because they have to. That's what they had to do with Game Pass, and to some degree I would say that has been a success. To some degrees probably not. But this the tides are changing for sure. And I think that if I'm going to be totally honest, I do think he's correct in what is right for Xbox. I do, because you and I think we're in alignment. We really want Xbox to double down on exclusives and really hammer home the point. And I think I might even be more aggressive on this than you are, where it's like, I want that shit to be there, remain there, and have a real reason for developers to continue supporting this ecosystem because you talked about it earlier, games not getting ports of Xbox or not getting ports of games on Xbox that are everywhere else. And it's like, yeah, whenever you lose brand identity, whenever you lose tangible reason for people to invest in this ecosystem, then why would developers and publishers invest in this ecosystem if all these borders are open and you can access this content this here, there, everywhere else? Like, I do understand that argument.
Yeah, because they're probably like obviously Game Pass has been profitable for them, but they can't keep throwing money around forever. That's how they got these. Like Yakuza would never have ever wanted to go on the Xbox without that Game Pass money because they were like, we know that it's already a fairly niche title to begin with. You putting it on a console that doesn't embrace many Japanese things to like it it won't sell many copies.
Yeah.
Like period. So like we like they flashed the money in their face and I was like, okay, well that's alluring.
Yeah. And it
You know,
did
at least
great.
we know because no one had to pay for it.
Right.
I don't know anybody on my friends list who purchased Infinite Wealth other than myself.
Yeah.
No one tried it
Well, we saw that with the charts last week. We went over
on
the February.
Xbox. Yeah. No
Yeah.
one tried it because it wasn't in Game Pass, so they're not interested in it. They like it's like you said, it's a shift. It's a shift that like we seem to have a very it feels like that thing where it's like we're stuck in our old ways because they worked, they felt good. Now
Yeah.
it is that I applaud Phil for probably seeing a hell of a lot further in the future than me and you of being like
Absolutely.
because his mindset is obviously yeah open borders and stuff. He he used the example of if you have an iPhone, your app can be put on an iPhone, it can be put on an Android device, but you're enjoying the same thing. There's been no compromises there. Like they're seeing the same amount of success. So why can't that be the same for Xbox with games? And I guess because like fanboy console wars, quote unquote, have raged for so long, that's so bizarre of a concept to think about that a lot of us are rejecting it. It is kind of a positive in it. Like more people get to enjoy it, and it ties in as well with the whole him wanting handhelds that he dropped as well as a comment.
Before you jump off to that one, I agree with everything you're saying, but once again, it gives people less incentive to be in your ecosystem. So it's like if people
Do you think so though?
definitely, because like I'll tell you, I mean, even just from my perspective, if you are, let's say we do get to a point where Indiana Jones, I don't think it will, but let's say it does launch day and date with PlayStation. I'm buying it on PlayStation. Like
But they're still seeing the profits in their eyes though.
I get it.
That's the thing.
I get it. But if if this continues to go this way, where these first party games launch more and more frequently day and date or closer to day and date, there the shift in mentality from other publishers is the concern. Where it's like, okay, all of their games are going to PlayStation, so less people are buying that Xbox. There's less of a user base there, and they're putting their games on PlayStation, and they're putting their games on Nintendo when they can run them. So we're gonna
I
go
think
to
I think
PlayStation and
that's where
Nintendo too.
the bridging of the Epic Store comes. These are multiple layers to this whole thing
Now
of
that makes sense. Let all the work be done for you, and it's just like instant access kind of thing.
exactly.
Yeah,
They're taking the Steam route. Steam
that
used to
makes
make
sense.
games. They don't make games anymore, really. They very rarely dip their hands into it because they don't need to.
Yeah,
And I don't think they'll go as aggressive as that because they've invested in so many of these studios. It would be very stupid just be like, okay, yeah, well, we're just a storefront now.
of course. Well, and that's the thing, Loon, is like even if they went the whole publisher route, they would be the most profitable. If they completely, I don't want them to. I when I was a kid, I always remembered my cousin had an Xbox. I wanted to play KOTOR. I wanted to play Fable. I wanted like I love that feeling of like, oh, new box, new
The
accessories,
allure,
new software
yeah,
for that box. Yeah. And it's like,
the allure was there, and it's blurred
yeah,
since the tail end of the 360, where they just made bad decision after bad decision. The Connect, and then the Xbox One announcement, where they just publicly shot themselves on stage, and they handled it so poorly as well. Like it wasn't even just that the the way it was initially perceived. It took them like over a week to backtrack on a lot of them comments. It was just completely tone deaf, and then just having no content for like the first three quarters really of the Xbox One this generation.
yeah. Well, I guess we can go ahead and pivot over to that handheld because that does tie directly to what we're talking about here, just with this more open borders approach to gaming. And this is all coming from Polygon, by the way. I should shout them out there. But Phil had a really interesting quote here. He said, I want my Lenovo Legion Go to feel like an Xbox. I'm on the airplane and I have this list of everything that makes it not feel like an Xbox. Forget about the brand, more like are all of my games there? Do all of my games show up with the saves that I want? I want to be able to boot into Xbox, the app, in a full screen, but in a compact mode. And all of my social experiences are there. Like I want to feel it like the dash of my Xbox when I turn on the television. Once again, this was an interview with Polygon. So, and there was also Jez Gordon reported from Windows Central Gaming that he believed that an Xbox handheld was in the prototype phase of development. This is a little bit before this article, if I'm not mistaken. So, and he's definitely had some inside connections within the Microsoft sphere. So, how are you feeling about the future possibility of an Xbox handheld looking more and more likely?
You know what's crazy?
What's up?
I would welcome it much more than I initially thought. Because the more I sat down and thought about it, like I've been eyeing up a Steam Deck for ages now, and I haven't pulled the trigger on it.
Same.
Um, because like you said, there's PC releases that I can't play being solely tied down to an Xbox ecosystem, as it were. So if Xbox got their hand in that and were able, because they have really strong connections with people. So if they're already flirting with Epic to bring an Epic store onto the console itself, it makes total sense that they would have one-to-one compatibility of a handheld to be able to have a Steam library on it. Perhaps even integrate it, because that's what he's saying as well. Like all these things that he said that people have laughed at in the past about like, cloud-based streaming of the games and the subscription model and all of this and being able to reach as many people. People thought it was a lot of lies and deceit and stuff like that. He's delivering on all of these ideas that he has. Like whether or not we like them or not is a different thing, but he is delivering on it. So him saying about these storefronts, I truly believe that it just would be a superior Steam Deck because they're
Yeah.
not going to go in on half-ass a handheld because they've looked around and said, Nintendo's really good at doing handhelds and stuff like that. It's really popular. So clearly there's a market for it. PlayStation's had a stab at it and done it their own way, keeping things exclusive and stuff like that, and in their own enclosed, and it hasn't worked. It's been unsuccessful. The Vita, it sold
All right.
really bad, really, really bad. Um, so yeah, if they actually took it seriously, I think they could definitely deliver on it.
Well, to your point here, this Polygon article, it goes on to say Spencer is considering two approaches to a handheld Xbox-based experience, one driven by hardware and the other by software. There's the option to create a proprietary handheld console, and then there's the option to improve the Xbox software experience on compatible devices like Windows 11 powered by Asus, uh, ROG Ally, or the Lenovo Legion Go. Sorry if I messed up some of those names. I'm really not in the handheld space at all,
Mhm.
but yeah, it seems like there might be some sort of internal split potentially. It seems like that's been going on a lot with Xbox and Microsoft, where it's like the Xbox team wanting one thing, Microsoft team being like, yeah, how about we let other people do what they do, and we'll just put our games where they're at and make it the best experience possible
Yeah,
without having to
to a
invest the money.
to a degree, I'd agree with that because it's kind of I don't know who headed the Connect, but they were really pushing that, and no teams wanted it.
Yeah.
The only person that kind of gelled with it was Peter Molyneux, and that was because that guy's a weirdo.
I
Like,
love that guy.
I love him. Like, he'd embrace anything. He's hyped to just be here. So, um, I think they would be warmer than they would a Connect, stuff like that. But
Of
I get it.
course.
Like, you'd be like, we're only just finding our footing now, really. Like, with things that people are actually excited for Xbox, do we really want to like do a really big? Because it is a massive risk. It's not cheap to develop a whole like if you're still doing the original concept of a console as well that you're planning on doing, to then fund something on the side, like that's a big thing.
Well, dude.
So
And I mean, if you look at PSVR 2, which obviously the handheld market is much more appealing than the VR market, but I mean, those things are just they're sitting on shelves. Like Sony's going to have to stop production of that thing because they're just not moving. And it's like that's probably $1 billion loss. You know what I mean? When
it's
it's all said
probably
and done.
probably more than that, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like it's very expensive to prototype things and run through the resources of building that stuff and then to finally hit manufacture. And then if they're just sitting on shelves, you're not making any of that money because you always make a loss on your hardware. It's the software that usually sells, so they're probably making a loss already from the sales of the headset itself,
totally.
and they don't even have the hardware to back it up either. So they're just killing it in its own water.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no yeah, that I mean that's a total doom and gloom fiasco there, but I don't think so with this Xbox handheld. I kind of agree with you. I do think if they pursue this full force and really go in on trying to, you know, make it the best experience possible, allow the player to be able to download games natively. Because we talked about this before. Like, dude, I have 1 terabyte of storage on my phone. I have more storage on my phone than my damn console.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's you can absolutely download these games natively. It doesn't have to be a cloud streaming bullshit, version of like that shit sucks. It'll happen one day. We're not close. We're not even close to close yet. At least in my experience.
No, for the majority of people, no. There's areas where it can be supported, but even then, the people who can run it, it it still is the inferior way of playing. It's not one to one. Like there's input latency and there's lag. You drop for half a second, that's it. You're booted out of the game. Like you, it isn't. It's not them.
It's not close. Yeah. And obviously Xbox is pivoting massively, but I do think in terms of all the pivots that we've talked about, in terms of bringing everything to PlayStation, everything to Nintendo, and going this route and that route, and every damn route they've thought up, the handheld market is really appealing to me. And the open border accessible route for the handheld market is more appealing than even that because like the idea of being able to play pretty much any retro game
Yeah,
that's available on Steam just through my
because
Xbox handheld or whatever.
yeah, the Steam Deck already allows that. As long
Exactly.
as that's the that okay, that is another thing, I guess. They cannot be so iron grip with the device. Steam completely like unhooked from it. They were like, "Look, man, this is once it's in your hand, do what you want with it." Like obviously within reason, but you can put whatever you like, whatever software on there, Linux and stuff like that. Like anything you want to put on it, put on it. Microsoft, I don't know if they would be willing to do that. They're a hell of a lot more strict. So if they, that's the only worry is
Yeah.
that if they're like, you get it in your hand and like, no, there's padlocks on these things. Like we don't want you touching this. We don't want you touching that. We want you to do it through official means only. Then there's no point in owning it.
At all. And they would
Just
have to
buy
know
the
that.
Steam Deck. Yeah,
Yeah. They would have to know there's way, superior options out there. If they wanted to go down the handheld route, they would really have to commit full stop with, open borders. Like Phil
yep.
Spencer really loves that idea. So like, if that is the future and they do pursue that with those open borders in the handheld market, I think they will find success. All of these companies are seemingly finding success right now. Even the damn dumbass Portal. I can't understand why in the world that thing is so successful.
That PlayStation thing.
Yeah, the PlayStation Portal. That's a
Yeah,
god awful idea, but it's doing great. But
yeah.
man,
It'll be interesting to see how that's doing in like a year time. It's still pretty early, isn't it?
yeah. I don't
How
think it
long's it been
matters
out?
though. I think it's been out over a little over a year.
Oh, that's
So
been out a lot longer than I thought.
it might
Damn.
be less than that. But I don't think I think the fact that it got off to such a hot start, I think they're probably fucking looking at it now and it's like, yeah, fine. Well, whatever. We probably more than made our money back off that thing. Or it might be the thing where they're like, yeah, well, we'll take the loss on it. Like I don't either which way, I don't think they're overly burdened by that little device. I don't even what
No,
does it
I don't even know what it does even.
that's it, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is it? Does it how much money could have went into that thing? But
Yeah.
anyway, man, let's talk about The Witcher, dude. The CDPR put out their financial earnings call here, and we have some pretty interesting information. I'm pulling this from Shinobi602 on Twitter. Over 400 developers are working on the next Witcher game at CD Projekt Red, currently in the pre-production phase. The company made a profit of over 120 million in 2023, backed by strong sales of Cyberpunk 2077 and its Phantom Liberty expansion. And there's some more interesting details on this here that I pulled from 400 out of the 600 employees at CDPR are currently on The Witcher 4, Witcher 1 Remake, the new IP, and Cyberpunk 2, or Orion they're calling it, are still in the concept phase. So I would assume we are, 6+ years out on each of those games. I imagine. Um, I'm thinking Witcher 4, probably 2026, 2027. Witcher 1, 2028, 2029. Cyberpunk 2, early 2030s. And I know, obviously they have multiple teams that are kind of, but it seems like they're really all focused on The Witcher 4
They
right
don't
now.
want a repeat mistake on Cyberpunk
Yeah.
where you understaff it big time. Focus on a project that's of the most importance. Because to me, even though some of these are in their concept phase, it's still like a major red flag. You have like five titles that you've got on paper that you're going to be making. That seems like a lot for
Yeah.
how you function as a company and how many employees you have.
Yeah. The Witcher 1 remake being in the concept phase is kind of weird for me too. Like I did not expect that at all. I was thinking that that would get an announcement and a release date within like a couple years.
I didn't.
Damn.
The original Witcher game is so rough. Go back and play, like it's not something where they can like mildly patch it up. Like it would need probably the staffing of that Witcher 4 team to seriously like put out a remake on the level of like RE2 and to
Wow.
get it the love that it deserves. Like it's not something that you could just put a little bit of liquor paint on and be like, that's good enough. I mean, they could do that. It's going to get received really, really badly because a
Yeah.
lot of people have only entered the Witcher space with The Witcher 3. So you're coming with a bar of that expectation of quality.
Yeah. And I know that they have that, I think it's the team in Boston that is specifically focused on that Cyberpunk to the Orion game. They made $4 billion in revenue off of Cyberpunk. I like The Witcher 3 a lot. I love it. One of my favorite games ever. One of my favorite stories ever. Maybe my favorite story ever. I would throw that baby out with the bathwater. They'd be jumping straight to Cyberpunk 2 if I was CDPR. Everything would be all full steam ahead,
Um,
Cyberpunk 2.
I think it's the thing of they want that like space because it still has a very bad aura around it. No matter how popular it was, you still have a lot of people that have a bad taste in their mouth. So if you can land a slam dunk with The Witcher 4, regain them people's trust. Because you even said it yourself, like you're not paying day one for anything CDPR puts out. Like you're not
Yeah,
pre-ordering and stuff. Like they've ruined that trust with you. So they need to mend them bridges because it was a major thing what they did with The Witcher 3 and what they accomplished. So if they can regain a bit of that footing and then come back and like give that 1-2 punch and be like, look, this is what Cyberpunk really deserved. This is what we should have given it the first time around. But like we've learned and stuff because what they achieved in Phantom Liberty is incredible. Like the
yeah,
turnaround on that game is crazy. It was a completely different experience. 1.0 to what the end of Phantom Liberty is, just every aspect of that game got reworked. So if they can go in with that as the bar set now, and that's okay, we know that this is what a cyberpunk game is. It's only going to get better from them.
yeah. It's it's looking like I'm feeling this could be wrong, but it's looking like Cyberpunk made 3 billion more in gross revenue than The Witcher 3, which I assume Cyberpunk's budget was way, way, way higher as well. But yeah,
It
that's crazy.
it had the benefit of because The Witcher TV show came out a hell of a lot later than the because it was like 2015 the game.
Yeah,
That revenue can't be just games like that has to be like all extended media as well. You would think bundled in when they're sitting there flexing their muscles about Cyberpunk as an IP. You're talking like the Edge Runners show on Netflix, the plethora of graphic novels that they've gone out and supported and stuff like that.
yeah, but still, I mean, just
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of money.
yeah,
That's
in
that's a big
comparison,
dub.
in comparison to The Witcher, it's like I honestly I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Cyberpunk made that much more money than The Witcher, but either which way, I mean they made I think The Witcher 3 sold close to 50 million copies, something like that. So it's not regardless, they're making buku bags. And for the next 10 years, seemingly, it's all Cyberpunk and The Witcher, and then the new IP I would assume would be way late, like late 2030s if it
Don't
ever even
even
sees the light of day.
I don't it kind of confuses me when they do this. Do you really need a new IP?
See, that's
Like
the,
really?
I'm always new IP guy, but I
I
get
mean,
what you're saying.
they wobbled with Cyberpunk, but finally found their footing. Like, do you really want? Because Cyberpunk was a new IP. Do you really want to risk the hit of your reputation for a second time?
Yeah.
Like, what could you do? You're already doing a fantasy setting, and you're already doing what's essentially a like almost sci-fi, being Cyberpunk. Are you
We
going like full sci-fi? Like,
Just give me a damn spy game. Give me Phantom
oh my
Liberty, but
God.
modern day. Dude, I want a spy RPG so bad. If damn Obsidian, because all of the damn contractual shit going on with Sega and all that crap with Alpha Protocol. But yeah, anything else you really wanted to hit on there? It's just we kind of already knew a lot of this stuff about
Yeah.
CDPR and their production pipeline, but it seems like it's going a little bit slower than even I expected.
No, for me it was going about as quickly as I expect. They don't want to rush into anything.
Yeah,
They really dropped the ball by doing that last time, and it kind of humbled them. It felt because they
totally.
felt they had that thing where they were untouchable, and then they got hit with a reality check.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Well, dude, our last story, and I will check one more time just to make sure nothing damn interesting has taken place in the video game space. It's looking like no breaking news.
no Microsoft purchasing Sony.
Nothing
We
crazy.
finally won, guys. We did it.
We bought our competition, the old Vince McMahon quote. Um, but yeah, our last discussion here, our last news story is Judas. People have played it. They're not calling it a preview, but it's essentially a preview. People went out and previewed Judas, Ken Levine's new IP that looks a lot like Ken Levine's old IP. And for from Ghost Story Games this time around, his new team. And it is a first person BioShock looking title. Uh, Obviously, people are calling it BioShock in space. Some System Shock
Yeah.
vibes there, and much more colorful. Uh, kind of leaning into some BioShock Infinite, certain sections of BioShock Infinite, not quite
Mm.
that colorful and earthy, but definitely has a vibrant tone to it. So yeah, I watched the Friends Per Second podcast. There's a number Ryan McCaffrey did. I watched a little bit of that as well. He interviewed Ken Levine with Jeff Keighley, and they had a good discussion about it. There's a lot of good preview, quote unquote. They're not calling it preview, whatever. There's a lot of good content out there right now regarding Judas. Loon, anything about this jump out at you? One thing really negative hit me immediately about Judas,
You go ahead with that
ro
then.
roguelite,
Mm.
procedural generation, and roguelite. And I listened to Ken's breakdown of how it's not going to be as annoying as the typical roguelite and not as, I guess, soulless as the typical procedurally generated game. It seems like it's going to be a lot of environmental swapping on the fly through procedure generation. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Maybe because I'm thinking like we saw it implemented fairly well with Remnant and stuff. So if they could like expand that on a budget, because Remnant was fairly like low budget with how they handled like their procedural generation stuff and map layout and things being slightly different. He probably could do that because his themes also. kind of lay into that as well. With you obviously played Infinite without I don't want to spoil it, but that's kind of multiple
Yeah.
scenario things is what he's known for. Like so, spinning things would kind of lay into like what he likes to do. So if anybody could do it, it'd be him.
Yeah. And on the Friends Per Second podcast with on Skill Up's channel with Jake Baldino and Lucy James from GameSpot, he said he made it sound more like it was a randomizer tool, like where he already had these pre-built levels and pre-built sort of encounters that were going to happen, but it randomizes it and spits it out at you at kind of different intervals. And so, just getting it in different orders, but getting handcrafted experiences in different orders, that sounds a little bit more appealing to me. And then, he did that GDC talk years and years ago about the narrative Legos, about
Yeah.
a game reacting in a dynamic manner and you being able to not only shape the story with the choices you make that we've seen for ages, but the NPCs kind of understanding your position as the player and knowing what you need and being able to sort of aid and assist you, but also appeal to your needs. And like, so, okay, if I'm low on whatever type of currency or whatever type of this or that, and the NPC that wants me to go and kind of join their faction, they can appeal to my needs. And even if I don't agree with them morally or whatever, they can just offer up the thing that appeals the most to what I need in my
Yeah,
inventory at
there's an
this specific.
incentive. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that was like the coolest thing in this whole preview round that I heard about the game, where it was like these, because I think there's four different kind of like main factions or main dudes, main people that you can kind of align with, and they
Mhm.
actively work against one another to sabotage you if you're not working for them, and also to sabotage the other quest givers or faction leaders or whatever you want to call them. So that was like the main thing that really jumped out at me is like, okay, that sounds actually really fucking cool.
See, that's funny that you've explained it in that way because that sounds exactly like what Stalker is,
Oh, really?
where like the environments don't change, like they're thingy, but you have these factions that exist in that world and will react to what you're doing and stuff. It's obviously a much older game, so it didn't have things like where they would try to appeal to you directly as a player. That seems like the next step in that process. But it seems like he's pulling ideas from all these different games and being like, if we can like, you know, find the thread that ties all this together, this could be a really cool package.
Yeah,
So it'll be very interesting to see if he's able to do that. Um, Obviously the last kind of Bioshocky game was Atomic Heart, and that kind of didn't land too well with many people. I myself thoroughly enjoyed it, but it kind of left people wanting Bioshock
definitely.
and not
Yeah.
Atomic Heart.
I didn't like it at
So
all, but it was busted when I played it at launch. So I think over time they cleaned it up quite a bit. And this is obviously coming from a much more, no offense, but a much more seasoned and talented team at Ghost Story. So Ken Levine, just he's one of those names like a Hideo Kojima, and there's a few of those names where it's like, yeah, whatever you put out, I'm gonna trust it to some degree. I'm gonna at least give it the time of day. But I
yeah,
can't lie, after coming away from this and listening to, I listened to that full interview on Friends Per Second. I listened to a good bit of the Ryan McCaffrey, Keeley podcast that they did with Ken Levine. I read some preview coverage. I came out much more negative than I was going into it. Like you throw procedural generation and roguelike, and I know that those things don't necessarily, because you can make the argument that Deathloop is a roguelike.
yeah.
And that's a great implementation of that system. But it's still like I think unless, and he did say multiple times, it's baked into the narrative. Like the reason that it's a roguelike is because it bakes into the narrative. And once you get your hands on it and understand it, it makes more sense. So it's just going to be one of those wait and see things. But when
You
when
just need
you
to trust them. Yeah.
yeah, and trust doesn't go
No.
as far as it used to in the modern gaming space.
Yeah, it's because like you mentioned like Hideo Kojima. Like a lot of people didn't know what the hell Death Stranding was up until people had it in their hands even. And even then, when they had it in their hands, like, what the hell is this?
Jesus, man.
So, but you can't dispute that it is a work of art. It's a uncompromising, driven vision of his, and it seems like this is also the same for Ken Levine. So
Yeah.
even if it doesn't land with a lot of people, kind of like Death Stranding did, not many people, you had a huge amount of people that did love it, but you had a lot of people that were like, this is awful,
Yeah.
boring, tedious, blah blah blah. It feels like it's going to be one of them games where it's going to be very, very, very divided.
Yeah. I could see that. The conversation around it already has been a little bit like, eesh. So it is what it is though. But yeah, man, anything else you wanted to add on there? Because that's our final news story.
No,
And
that is the week.
hey, we can't make the news, man. We can only discuss it and talk about it. And I'll do one last scan through on here just to make sure there is absolutely nothing of interest that has popped up since we've been recording. And yeah, there is nothing. I cannot find anything.
Hey, it was a palate cleanser week from last week. There you go.
Yeah,
Positive
you
outlook.
go from a 2 hour ramble fest to a nice, concise, probably whatever, 30 minutes. I don't know. We're recording this all together, so time is time. What did Lincoln Park say? Time is a da 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 da. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. Appreciate you guys
Yeah.
for tuning in, and we shall see you on. I guess the next one will be our topic discussion, which is preservation. So stay tuned.